Hi everyone, it's Julia here and I'm on the Crafty Maven Getaway channel again with In Your Pocket Tuesday. Here you can see I have selected a few things to use on my project, and this one is a little bit different. I have created all of the papers myself using a Project Life kit. This is one of those DIY kits which come with just plain papers, and you just color them in to match your project. So this is the first time I used them, and this was a bit of an experiment. I've selected the shimmers, inks, and some distress ink to use on my project, as well as some watercolor. And the first paper I have started with, it's kind of cream color. It's not stark white, and it's very absorbent. So you can see here it's absorbed the ink really well, and the color is no longer very bright, so you really need to go through a few layers to get the result that you want. So you can see here, once I add my inks to the card, they get absorbed pretty much straight away. I wasn't completely happy with how the colors were blending. They were absorbing way too quickly, even when I've added water and tried to make them blend with each other. So I've also added some distress inks and just filled in some of those areas where it looked like circles from the sprays. Second card I'm working on is I didn't want to do each card in exactly the same color combination. Although I've used the same colors, I have just done different color combinations on them. So this card that I'm working on, I've just added some blues. So it's the chipped sapphire, I think, and more of a turquoise greenish blue color as well. And as you saw, I just put the ink on the craft mat and added some water to make it a little bit runnier, and I just put the paper into it, dried it a bit, and then gone through the process a few times to just get the variation in the color. Next card I'm working on is another one of those DIY cards from Project Life kit, and it's another one of those creamy ones. So you can see how it really absorbs the ink straight away. So you don't get really a lot of a blend with it. It just gets all soaked into it. So really, with this sort of a paper, you're better off using colors that are very close to each other, so that they you're not really looking to blend them and make them mix their own colors and things like that, because they're just going to keep their spot where you've applied that particular color. So that card that I've just done was just a combination of some orange and pink shimmers and some leftovers I had on a craft mat I decided to use for the next card. I wanted to add some of that bright yellow that you can see in the inspiration piece, and added some of the watercolor. I didn't quite like the result. It ended up looking like burnt orange, so I've added pink shimmers to go over it and make the color a little bit nicer, a little bit brighter. And then I've just gone with my water brush and some of the yellow watercolor, and I've just painted some areas with that bright yellow. I just found when I mix shimmers which are not as opaque as the watercolor kind of mixes in with it straight away, and you don't really get the color separation. And when you mix those two together, they sort of start giving you more of a burnt orange, which I didn't want. Next color I'm working on, I'm looking at creating a little bit more of that blue, pink, purpley color. So I've added some shimmers in blue and in pink, and then I just wanted to add some of the turquoise color as well. I've put my ink pad onto the craft mat, and I've just started adding the ink by hand, and then I realized it was going to take way too long, so I've added some water to dilute the color a little bit, and I've just done the same thing as with one of the earlier cards, where I've just put the card onto the craft mat and, and kind of swoosh it around to get that watercolory effect. So just adding some more colors in to blend the different colors and make it look a little bit more interesting. Did some splatters you can't really, because the paper absorbs things really well, and it's better if you use watercolor paper, but I've just used normal cardstock for some of these extra cards, the ones not the from Project Life kit, but just some extra cardstock that I've added. And the splatters don't really stand out too much because they're not dark. They're sort of similar bluish to what the background is, and they get soaked in, so they add a subtle effect but not a very bold splatter. So the same idea here, putting some of the yellow watercolor onto the craft mat, adding some water, and you do need to add more water than you do to the ink sprays because watercolor is a lot more pigmented, or at least this set of watercolors is a lot more pigmented. So I needed to add more water to the watercolor section on my craft mat, and it was also drying a lot quicker too. And like I was saying before, it really mixes in with the other colors fairly quickly, so you don't really get that bright yellow when you do this sort of a technique. So what I wanted to do is just add some of that yellow, and it was just drying too fast, so it didn't quite have the same effect as I was hoping. So I just had to go a few times through it and add several layers to get the sort of a look that I wanted, and the opacity and the brightness that I was looking for this card. So I think at this point, of course, cleaning up my brush to make sure I don't accidentally start working on another project with the wrong color. More of the same thing, added more of those blues and turquoise colors, and just put the card straight into it. You don't have to do several layers. I just find that firstly, you get a more interesting look when you do it several times, and if you do it from the first go, you usually miss out on a few spots. So it depends on the look that you're looking for. If you want a variation between empty, like say white areas and colored areas, that's probably perfect. But if you want the whole paper covered evenly, or so that you can't see any white areas in between the color, then you really need to go through it a few times. Now I'm laying out my completed cards and photos that I have selected previously, and I'm going to go through and work out how I actually want to back the cards, like the cutout words on the cards, and also some of the wood veneers from this kit. I just wanted to find a spot for a few of them. They're quite large, so I couldn't use many of them. I think I've only just used that remember word in the bottom left corner, and the other ones were just too big. I decided to bag the cards with words in them with plain cardstock instead of pattern paper, because otherwise it just already looks too busy with all the different colors and different variations of those colors on the page. And I just wanted something plain that would actually stand out and you would be able to read the words. I'm going through the little box of leftovers from the kit I had from Cocoa Vanilla Studios, and I only really have a few little offcuts of paper left, and a few of the embellishments. So embellishments matched the colors in the paper and the inspiration piece, like with the little pineapples and that sort of stuff, I thought it went with it. And I've selected a few of those things and just layered them in the little embellishment clusters. I had to wait a little bit for the cards to dry. I did dry them with my heat tool, but not all of them were completely dry. And once you start adding glue to the paper that is dry, the glue doesn't really attach things very well. So you got to make sure that whatever you attaching your things to is dry before you start adding the glue. The papers, because they're just your normal cardstock, they have curled up and they're not completely straight anymore. It doesn't really matter in this case. You could always back them to a thicker cardstock and keep them straighter, and that's probably what I would do if it was a 12 by 12 layout. However, these are going to be in page protectors, and they're going to have other cards on the backs of them, so it probably is not crucial for them to be straight by themselves, as you won't be able to really notice it when they're in the page protector. Some of those things I have pre-cut previously on the other project I was working on, so I'm just using some leftovers, some of those little white leaf things and these little words that I cut out from Cocoa Vanilla cut apart, or actually it was a paper with words on it, and the words that I thought I would use, I have just cut them out to use as embellishments on my projects. I've decided I needed to add some more of that bright blue, which appears in the Today word, and also it is the same color as the sky on the bottom left card. So I thought I would just bring that bright blue color to balance the page and I guess draw your eye across the page from all that busyness, something that doesn't have any pattern to it, but it brings the whole page together. So I've cut out a few from that paper and just a few more from this turquoise paper as well. And this cardstock just matches with the colors that I've selected from shimmers and distress inks. And these are some letter stickers I was using for my title card. So I've just selected a W and a K to spell week, and some older little stickers to put the week 41 in numbers on them. And it didn't really stand out that well because the paper is quite bright and busy in the background, so I have just outlined it with my black marker. Just going through a few more of the embellishments to try and add a few final touches to a few cards that looked a little bit empty and that just have a lot of not interesting space that you really need to fill in with something. And adding my dates for this week in the top left card, the title card. I've just stamped them on a white label that I have cut out and just had sitting on my desk. And I used one of the roller date stamps to stamp it with my black Stays On ink, and I've just cut off the excess there when I've glued the label to the top of the paper. There's not a lot of journaling in this page. This is not the only page for this week, but all of these photos are from the same event and from the same day. So I've started off my week with that particular selection of photos, and therefore there's not a lot of journaling there. It's just basically a note saying that we were there looking at a new property that we were looking at buying, and a few photos of the place. At that point, of course, we didn't know whether we were going to buy it or not, but we did end up getting it, so There will be more photos of the place in the later weeks of the project life. Adding some final touches, some of those leaf things with my Martha Stewart punch that I have already die cut the other day when I was working on something else and I had leftover papers, so I just punched out a few and I just had them sitting on my desk. Backing the final card with another white cardstock so that you can read what it says. And finishing it all off with rounding off the corners. So here is a finished project and some close-ups. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked the video and subscribe to Crafty Maven Getaway for more videos which get posted every day, and visit my channel as well for more of my projects. Thanks for watching. Bye.